All right, everyone, you are listening to the Minding Mind podcast, where we live life with ease, connection, and permission to just be. I'm your host, Evelyn LeVasseur, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I get to sit down with Cassandra Rosa to talk all about intuitive life and business, and I can't wait for you to hear more. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Cassandra. She is a certified life coach and healer, intuitive business coach. She helps spiritual entrepreneurs create fulfilling lives and impactful businesses. In her coaching practice, she loves to teach her clients how to clarify their path to their purpose, connect to their inner confidence, and create the fulfilling business they daydream about. I love that. Cassandra Rosa is a Reiki master, an award-winning speaker, an award-winning author of the book, Now What? Create the Clarity to Achieve Your Dreams. Cassandra is also a podcast host of a personal development and business podcast called Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur. It's available on all major podcast platforms. You can check out her website at cassandra.com to learn about her signature course, Fulfilled Femme Entrepreneur. Cassandra, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today and chat with the audience too.
Me too. So in the Minding Mind community, we're all about the instinct, the intuition, the shutting off the outside world, the really connecting to like your gut, your desires. So I love like even just in hearing your bio and even like checking out your site and stuff, I could see how a lot of our thoughts and practices are aligned. Before we get started, do you want to tell us a little bit more about like how you got into this work?
Yeah, I would love to. And I feel so much alignment with the purpose of everything that you do here. So I'm so excited to dive in with you.
Awesome.
But yeah, from a very young age, I felt this like inner calling to make a difference in the world, but I didn't know what that meant. So thought maybe I'll be a teacher or a psychologist. And I went to school for psychology, and halfway through my degree, I had this now what moment of like, I feel like there's something more for me here than going the traditional route. Now what? What am I going to do with my life? So I ended up kind of just saying yes to opportunities that came my way. I volunteered in Namibia, Africa, at an after-school program with kids. And that's where I really fell in love with mentorship and seeing those light bulb moments go off for people. But this is back in 2014, a decade ago. So coaching wasn't as big as it was now. So I found when I came home from that life-changing trip, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus on making a lot of money with the family business of insurance, and then I'll create a foundation someday, or I'll make a difference afterwards. But it was weird, like whenever I was doing cold calling or sitting in the office, I was daydreaming about just like traveling and making a difference. So funny enough, that's when life coaching just fell into my lap, and personal development. And I really focused on developing myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I realized, wow, like life coaching, business coaching, that is something that will allow me to make the impact that I'm destined to make. So I left corporate, really dove deep into that, started my first business when I was 20, making vision board workshops at schools and community centers with kids with a friend of mine. And since then, I've been in the industry for about 10 years now, 5 years full time in the way that I'm doing it now. And I really just feel passionate about helping people to create that impact, to live a life that fulfills them at their core, and be intuitively led in the process. Because we all have this superpower being our intuition. So allowing ourselves the space and the permission to follow our gut every step of the way is kind of how my business has evolved over the past few years. So that's the short version.
I love that. I love that. And what I think it's ironic listening to you speak and know that I actually went to college and got my degree in psychology as well. And definitely had that like, now what type of feeling popping up. And I actually did go on to become a teacher for 11 years. And then literally was like at the point where I'm like, this is not who I'm supposed to be. And I'm living this way because I felt like it was the right thing to do for other people. It was the right thing to do for establishing, consistency in income, 403, savings, all the things. But I had zero regard for fulfillment, for passion, for purpose. It was, this is the path that I'm supposed to take, and I'm not supposed to question it until I did.
Right. No, I resonate with that so deeply. And there was a whole other level of like the family business aspect of it, of, me being someone that like did really well with sales and a very personable kind of personality. So for a long time, my dad was like, oh, she's going to take over the business. She's going to take over the business. That added a whole other layer of people pleasing and expectations projected on me that
Mhm.
made like the decision making process even harder and stronger. And I don't know if it was because I was really young and naive, but I took a lot of gumption and a lot of guts to just act in spite of the expectations,
Yeah.
which I'm so grateful for.
Did you feel a lot of pushback in your decision-making process? Like, was there trying to convince you otherwise, or, trying to tell you that it wasn't a good move for you to go into
Mm.
your own space? Like, did you feel that pushback?
Well, I think it was just me being empathetic. I could feel the pain of it all,
Mhm.
like all of, what the path that was created and destined for me kind of falling apart. And, they were kind of talking about, my family's talking about, it'd be just like an easeful path. Like there wouldn't be so much resistance. Like the ground was set for me.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of conversations like that I definitely am so grounded and proud of myself for taking such a big step when I was so young and following my intuition, even though back then I didn't really know what
Yeah.
intuition was as much as I know now.
Like, so in those moments, right? So when was it 20? You said you're 20 years old, you're making this big decision that is impacting more people than just yourself.
Right.
What did it look like? Like, what was your self-talk like? What did it look like for you to ultimately choose you?
It was a lot of daydreaming that was happening. And it was a lot of intuitive whispers and like this gut feeling of not like discontentment and it not feeling like that path that I was in was made for me and it wasn't enough. So it was like this kind of feeling, this contracting, icky feeling that I was
Mhm.
feeling. And it was interesting because there would be so much polarity and me daydreaming about this possibility. And I kind of joke when I tell my story, it was like I had the thought bubble coming out of my head and it was question marks. But even though there was so much question marks, I still had such a pull to step into that unknown. So it was interesting. It was this ping pong feeling of excitement for more, even though I had no idea what it was, but this discontentment of the current reality. And I think that is something that a lot of people talk about and experience in their now what moments and why, it's kind of people choose the lesser of two evils. Maybe the fear of the unknown keeps people in the discontentment of the job, career, relationship, whatever that they have, instead of really leaning into that uncertainty and choosing to see the excitement in it instead of the fear of the unknown.
Do you feel like that's something that comes up often in your coaching like that? How do you help someone almost like honor the
Mhm.
dream, honor the passion, and still acknowledge the fear without
Right.
falling into it? How do you coach someone through that? What does that look like?
Right. So I think it's starting to uncover what you do know about that question, right? Like what you do know about the future, what clarity you do have, and accepting it for what it is.
Mhm.
Sometimes we want the whole picture and every detail, right? Every piece of it before we take action.
Mhm.
And what I have found as being someone that used to be very type A of needing every step mapped out, every part of the vision, right? There is no such thing as certainty. And as much as we paint the picture of what the vision of life is going to be, it's going to change because we are evolving humans, going through this experience of life, and things will naturally unfold in a bigger and better way than we ever imagined. So I try and get my clients to really get to a place where they're excited about the future, that they're excited about the possibility, that they start to have, some clarity of what that's going to look like. Right. So then there's not so much fear about that. Lean into the energy of possibility and excitement and kind of reverse engineer and be like, okay, so based on what you do know for your future and what's lighting you up and the possibility of what a fulfilling life could look like, what are those things that are holding you back? Like, what are the buts? Like, let's talk about the buts. Like, let's be in this space where you can be present with it and you can feel the emotions that come up about it and start to uncover and release some of that resistance for yourself so that you can act in spite of your fears. Because
Mhm.
I do not know of any person I've ever met or any of the big time successful people that write their novels and memoirs that they don't talk about, fears. Like everybody experiences them. So it's learning to know that that's a part of the human experience and that you can act in spite of them and you can see fear in a whole different light. Like I've done a lot of work with myself and my clients, helping them change their relationship with fear.
I love that. And it's funny because I feel like coaching in the business space and coaching in the wellness space are so similar in that idea that like for me, the women that I work with have been like chronic dieters. And the reason it's so, I guess, compelling to reach for a diet is because it almost is some level of certainty, right? Like if I follow what Cassandra says I should do, then I'm going to get the results she told me I'm going to get. When the truth is, there is no guarantee with that. There is no guarantee with even continuing to live the way that you live today. There's literally no guarantee on either route that you take, but ultimately, like connecting with yourself and being present and experiencing the parts of the journey that actually create who you are. I feel like that's what determines where you go in the journey. Like it's about being present. It's about like figuring out who you are, what you want, what you desire, what lights you up, what makes you feel good, so that you can continue to infuse more of that into every part of your life. So I love how much of it is like so similar in the thought process. This is about, being present, being intuitive, being connected, and taking aligned action.
Yeah, I think the common thread is making a change in your life. When you're doing something outside of your comfort zone, right? That's when all the fears come up. And what I kind of talk about reframing the relationship with fear that I've had for myself is like, outside of, like the real, like actual physical danger of your body. I'm not talking about that type of fear.
Right.
I'm talking about the fear of stepping outside of your comfort zone. That is such a compliment because in your heart and in your soul is so confident that whatever step that you're about to take is for your soul's growth. So that's why the sirens go off and your ego being like, wee you, it's time for you to sit down. Oh no, there's uncertainty here. Oh, there's so much possibility. And it brings us on that spiral. So what I started to acknowledge within myself is, ooh, I'm starting to feel fear for taking a step outside of my comfort zone. That may be telling me that this is meant for me. And that, ooh, this is a compliment. Like my ego is so scared because they know that I'm going to take a huge step outside of my comfort zone and achieve what I want.
I was in a mastermind last year and we did a retreat in Orlando. And I'm not sure if you know of the coach, the business coach, Varian, I'm going to remember her name. I'll put it in the show notes if I need to, but she spoke at our retreat and she said something that has stuck with me so much. Like, she's like, how many of you say that you join things like masterminds because you're searching for a space that creates safety? And we all raised our hands, right? Like we all want a safe space to just be ourselves and be with like-minded or like-hearted people. And she's like, I'm going to challenge you and say that if you are always looking for safety in others, you will forever be dependent on others to create your safety. And she said, I want you to recognize that safety. And like you said, it's not about physical safety. It's not about harm or something else. Safety, trust, acceptance, validation, all those things are a you job. And if you know that you are the safety, you create the safe space, you carry it with you, then you feel safe in any space that you walk into. And what you're actually looking for is alignment, right? So, man, I feel like that's something I carry with me so much, knowing that no matter where I am, no matter who I'm around, no matter what situation I'm in, I am the safe space. Therefore, I am comfortable, I am confident, I'm centered.
That's so beautiful. And that like resonates with me so much. Like even in the past, year and a half journey in my personal life, I've gone through some stuff where, that kind of safety on the external. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned last year is it's an internal job. Safety is an internal job when it comes to, just life. So
yeah, all of it. I love that. I feel like I carry that thought with me everywhere that I go. So let's talk a little bit about like, what is it that you mean when you say that you do intuitive business coaching? What does that look like?
Yeah. So to kind of tell you what led me to creating that in my title, when I started my business in 2015 in this manner of one-on-one and doing it online, I started off goal setting, productivity. That was kind of the focus because that's something that I feel like I had mastered. And I had launched stuff and it got like good response, but it was nothing like I imagined. And something, again, my intuition was like, there's a little tweak that's needed here. So it was interesting. I was coaching one of my clients and I had my like angel card deck beside me. And for whatever reason, I'm like, I feel like I should pull a card for my client. And I asked her if she was open to it and she loved it. Like absolutely adored it. And I was like, that's interesting that I have this intuitive gift. Maybe I should just play with this. So meditation, I had done some meditation certifications. I'm like, maybe like I should lead a meditation to the same client because she loved it. Again, she loved it. And I was like, ooh, interesting. Like there's this part of myself that looks at things in the energetics as well as the practical that I feel like I can merge together when it comes to my coaching and my business. So once I changed the title and I started to incorporate these parts of myself into my coaching, things like just took off and expanded in so many different ways. So to me, what it means being like an intuitive life and business coach is really allowing my clients to experience a transformation on all levels. So I do things very workshop style, practical tools, walk through like right on the one-on-one calls with my clients to give them that transformation, but also address things in the energetics. So I don't know how woo-woo your audience is, but we are energetic beings going through a human experience. And energy is a real thing and our intuition is a real thing. So the more that I started to use these tools like Reiki, which is a Japanese healing modality, energy healing modality, cards, meditation, in my sessions and looked at it a very holistic process, that's where this deep transformation started to happen for my clients in an even more deep way than it did in the way that I was running my business prior.
How do you feel like your clients, do you feel that they are ready to work on like an energetic level when you
Yeah.
start working together?
Well, I think like you attract what you are when it comes to clients, like even in conversations with podcasts, like connecting with you, like I see so much of our stories aligning, right? So I feel like I start to attract it and I put in terms of who I help spiritual entrepreneurs. So they have a little bit of that. And my content, I love to put an intuitive sprinkle kind of about it. So yeah, I feel like there is a readiness and I feel like a lot of people I work with are at the beginning of the journey, which is just so much fun, you know? It's like Cassandra 10 years ago, or a lot of the clients that I have, which is fun to work with.
Oh my gosh. When you say it's so funny because I do feel like that's exactly it. When I'm working with clients, I could see Evelyn. I see Evelyn
Right.
in them. I see the same.
Yeah.
Our stories are different, but our struggle and our pain is the same.
Right.
Absolutely. I resonate with that 100%. Like being able to see what I'm trying to say is that I feel like the things that we go through and the person we become is all because we were meant to help someone else get through it.
Exactly.
Right. Like you
Yeah.
literally become the person that you needed. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So do you do life and business coaching together or are they two
Mhm.
separate businesses?
No, it's all together. I think that that's a part of it. Like I've been in so many programs that were just business, but then some of the life part gets in the way of it sometimes. Right? Like you can have the perfect plan, the perfect strategy, the captions on socials, whatever. But if you're scared to post it, you're not going to post it.
Exactly.
If you don't feel confident, if you're stuck in your head, if doubt and imposter syndrome are tearing you down, you're not going to do the work. That's why I like to look at things on a very holistic level. Like in my process, we focus on the clarity, we focus on that visioning, and we start to uncover what that's going to look like. Then we start to go into that confidence piece of really understanding, okay, this is this vision. What's stopping you from achieving it now? Let's get into it, which incorporates that life. Then their intuitive side, so they can be intuitively led in the process. And then we start to focus on the captivating the world with their message and creating that business and staying consistent no matter on the outside, especially because I work primarily with coaches or healers, those type of people. The lines can be blurred sometimes when it comes to content and the transformation unfolding. So I think that's why even more I like to encompass, you know, the spiritual, the mindset, and the business fundamentals all together in one.
I I love everything that you're saying. I see the same thing for myself. I am a wellness coach, but I focus completely on identity work because
Mm.
there's an idea that wellness is about food and exercise, right? And having a healthy body. But you can have the healthiest body and still just feel trapped in it because your heart and your mind are not well. So I love the work that I do in knowing that every aspect of the work that I'm doing is not only helping women like finally see themselves, finally accept themselves without judgment or shame, but it is releasing their children from carrying the burden of that, right? Like
Mhm.
when I believe so deeply that when you heal yourself, when you connect to you, when you release all the stuff that holds you back, you literally like hand your children permission to just be themselves, right?
Right.
No outside expectation. Like you cannot let me down. My daughters cannot let me down. I don't have expectations for who I think they should be. My
Right.
expectation is that they'll live in according to who they think they'll be, or who they want to be, or the impact they want to have. Like releasing all of that,
Yeah.
it just changes. It changes the trajectory of generations of women that I'll never even meet, but I'll know that my footprint was there, right? It is like I look at people talk about generational trauma, but I love to also think about like generational healing, like the work that we're doing. Imagine how many generations of women are carrying our legacy and we'll never even know them,
So
but we're there. We live through them, right? I love knowing that. And I love watching my daughters interact with their friends and seeing like the ripple. I
Mhm.
see them lift their friends up. I see their energy. I see their light, and I see them attracting people that think the same way too. We just had my daughter's quinceañera this weekend, and I was saying how academics are not important to me. Like, yes, my girls do very well in school, but that's because they have a lot of self motivation because we focus on who they are, not what they achieve. Like that accolades are not hugely important to me. I think what I want for my girls more than anything is for them to love themselves so deeply that they attract people in their life that never let them forget who they are. And this
Mhm.
weekend at her quinceañera, I was looking around and I was saying to myself, like, she's already done that. She is so
Wow.
loved and supported and so surrounded by people who just see her. Like, I feel like it just put a validation on every single thing that I've ever done for myself and watch it come to fruition through her.
That's so incredible.
Right? Like,
Oh,
it's incredible,
so
right?
moved. So moved. And it's interesting when you're saying what you do, it's like you're like a holistic legacy coach in a way, you
Mm,
know, like just I
it's
don't know,
just,
coming through for you is like, yes, it's health, yes, it's wellness, but this is legacy work, like this
mhm,
deep stuff that you're doing. I love that. It's so powerful.
mhm. And it just feels good to say, like, I make the world better.
Hmm.
I make the world better. I make families better. I help them connect more, but I can only do that because I love me,
Oof, that's so good.
right? Like
Oh man.
it just, but it feels so aligned with what you're saying as well. Like when I hear you speak, I hear you talking about like that, listening to your body, that
Mhm.
understanding what your body is screaming to you. The decisions I'm making don't feel good, right?
Mhm.
They don't feel aligned with my soul. My soul is screaming for a different
Right.
path. And I love that you're guiding people that way because I just look at the work that we do and it feels good knowing that like we create a ripple and so many people are just like being released and tasting freedom because we did some work on ourselves first.
It's so amazing. This is why we're here right now, you know, in
So
this
good.
special moment in history, this Aquarian age, like, you know, the light, the world, there's so much beauty in the world, but there's so much that's also being shaken up and falling apart. And I think that that's just a testament of we're here at this moment in time for a big reason. And that ripple effect is huge. And it's something that guides me all the time, you know, is just knowing that helping someone step into fulfillment and step into why they're truly here right now is so powerful. Like I don't have kids yet, but I
Mhm.
could imagine when you're looking at your parents and knowing that they're so happy and they are making a difference in the world, like that just changes the trajectory of, their experience. And knowing that the parents develop themselves also helps with the kids. So when you're telling me this story about your daughter's quinceañera, I'm feeling so moved and being like, ooh, I can't wait for my moment like that one day. So thanks for sharing that. So beautiful.
You're welcome. I love, like, people tend to say like the world is so scary, right? And it is. There are scary things that happen out there. But then I also just take solace in knowing like the world is really scary, yes, but also the world I've created is pretty damn great.
I love that.
Right? Like what we get to create is so great. If we're just willing to if we're willing to look at our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own desires, and take action from there. I had a business coach years ago say to me, Evelyn, like, what do you even desire? And I was stumped. I couldn't even answer, like, what did I dream about? When she asked me, I said to her, I desire for my marriage to be strong and rooted in friendship. I desire for my children to be self-loving and happy. And I desire to live a life with more ease. And she just said, Evelyn, I love those responses, but they're also all about parenting and partnership. And you did not speak about yourself even once.
Wow.
And that hit me, like when you talk about getting your clients to lean into the daydream, I didn't even have one.
Wow.
Not for myself. Like my entire identity was wrapped around who I was to everyone else, never for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So how do you find that? Do you find that your clients are already daydreamers? Do they allow themselves to dream, or do they kind of have the dream that is silenced by like expectation and reality?
Right. So I find that they come to me at two different points. There's someone with the dream that has the fear and they need help with the steps. Or there's someone that is like so deep in discontentment, which is such a gift. Like discontentment is such a gift. Knowing you're in the wrong place is just the best gift ever. Right. But them being there, they may have this confidence of wanting to take the step, but they don't know what that is. They're the thought bubble people like I was with the question marks. So those are kind of like the 2 points in the journey, which are right in the beginning, but both in different ways. But I think the common thread is they're doing a lot of the personal development work, but they need someone to help them with the application. Because that's kind of what happened with me. Like I was in all these courses. I did a lot in the States, actually, a lot of these like weekend format courses, which were great. Like they were like retreats, I guess is what they would call them now, or seminars, in-person seminars. But it's the application. So I think that that's a big thing for people, especially when you start their journey, is like, I learned everything. I was in every course. My plate was full of being in student mode. But I think it's different from student mode to like making this a part of you and your journey, embodying it and taking it in. So that's kind of like what I walk them through is like the embodiment piece.
I even have, same as you say, I even had been to many retreats where I felt like I learned an incredible amount of stuff. And I felt really like, I guess, motivated and excited and ready to do the work. But then the information was like such an overload that by the time I left that 2 or 3 day retreat, it was no longer like excited and motivated. It was more confusion, more like overwhelm. Yeah. And almost a little bit of like shame for feeling like, wow, I had all these amazing epiphanies and I am exactly where I was 3 days ago.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I can relate to that. It's all about the application, right? Application of the knowledge. And even when I read a book now or a podcast, I used to take so much notes on everything. And I realized, you know what? If I get one breakthrough from this or like one take home message, that's what I'm going to do. If I go to a seminar, if I take a master class, I'm going to look for that one golden nugget
Yeah.
in this experience. And I
Yeah.
feel like that kind of released the pressure and the overwhelm of the application of everything.
Yeah. I even started doing a practice of keeping a journal. It's just a journal of like gratitude, things that excite me. So in a moment where I feel like I have an epiphany, I have a breakthrough, I have something that excited me, then I write about that. But also once a month going in and like reading what I wrote, because it's so easy to like put stuff
Yeah.
down and then never think about it again, or
Right.
never look at it again. You'd have journals and journals that are just sitting there collecting dust. But going through and reading the gratitude, the breakthroughs and stuff, that keeps me inspired and just, I guess, grounded in the work.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, yeah, in with my coaches, I write down questions that they ask
Mm.
and like go back and journal on it afterwards and like read the notes and like journal and go deeper into the content. That's
Mhm.
what's really helped me, I think, with the embodiment piece for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have, let's say there's somebody who's listening right now and they may have this idea or this dream or even this nagging feeling that there's got to be something more out there. Do you have like a piece of advice you would offer them as either a starting point or as a way to get more clear? Like, what would you say?
You want to look at it really methodically. I would say like clarity, confidence, and creation. So start on clarity of starting to uncover if I was the most confident version of myself, like what would I create
Mhm.
in that reality? If there was no resistance, if there was nothing holding me back, what would that be? And play, like do this exercise after you went for a nice walk, you had a good workout, you got a good meditation in, whatever that feel good thing is for you, where you're in that connected state. So start with there and then uncover, okay, what would stop me to achieve that? And start to write that down, just empty, brain dump it all on the paper. And you can do something like a meditation to clear it, or you can
Mhm.
have those awareness pieces that you can work with a professional, whether it's like a life coach or a therapist or a healer, whoever you work with to help you unpack that deeper. And then create. So, like asking yourself, what are the steps that I would need to take to achieve this? I use the circle and start method with my clients, which you hypothesize all the steps, you write them down, baby steps, you make a master list, and then you number off 3 of them that you want to start with. You circle the first one and start. And you cross them off as you go. When those 3 are done, you write 3 more.
Mhm.
Pull the first one and start. So then that way, because I think like the biggest things that stop people is what is it that you want? What's stopping you? What are the steps to take?
I love
Yeah.
it. And it almost feels like having the circle, would you say circle and start method?
Mhm.
It feels less scary
Yeah.
because it's not like 100 things to do that feel unattainable. It's what can I do right now? And let me just do it.
Yeah. Make it baby, 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 like
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't touch on?
Oh, I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
So there's so many things, but I want to thank you for having me. This conversation is so beautiful, so deep, so profound. Like I think we really brought to light so many beautiful
Mm,
things. I feel like a very deep connection with you. So this is just the
yeah.
beginning of our collaboration, I'm
I,
sure.
I feel the same. I feel the same. I can feel like this is not the last time we're going to be chatting. Before I let you go,
Yes.
it's the question of the day. I always ask a question at the end of the podcast recording, and that is, how do you feel that minding mind, being intuitive and connected to your inner guidance, how do you feel that that impacts the legacy that you will leave?
It's such an amazing question. Like such a good question. I think following my intuition will guide me to the steps and the timelines and the path that will lead me to achieving my potential. And by me achieving my potential and showing up in such a powerful way, how cool is it going to be for my children one day to see that and to know it doesn't, and to me, that doesn't necessarily mean potential, meaning millions of people. It's just knowing those stories of how I've changed people's lives and leading by example for my kids, right? As morbid as it may be, we're not here forever. So I feel like how someone would speak about their mother must be so special.
I think too, like what you just hit on an important topic too, because it's not just about like, I feel like as parents, it's very easy for us to get caught up in saying like, I want the best for my child. I
Mhm.
want, and obviously we want the best for our children, but I think we often forget that the best thing we can do for our children is to live well so that they
Mhm.
know what that looks like, right? Like to live with passion and fulfillment and purpose and impact and to not be bound by other people's thoughts or expectations. Like that's living,
Yes.
right? And what better gift can you give them than the gift of trusting that they can do that too?
Yeah. Oh, I love
Beautiful. I love that. I love it. Amazing. Before we sign off, can you tell everybody where they can find you if you're
Yeah.
working on any new programs, or what are your next steps and how can they reach you?
Yeah, so CassandraRosa.com is the place where you can see all my free resources, link to my podcast, my book, my programs and offerings. So go and check that out. You can also go to my Instagram. It's Cassandra Rosa A. That's the place that I like to hang out the most. And there's that link in bio. You'll find out all of the things I have going on in this moment in time whenever you are listening to this podcast. So yeah, and check out the podcast because Evelyn's going to be a guest. It's called Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur. So I love to talk about all things fulfilling lives and businesses and bring people like Evelyn in to share about what fulfillment means to them and give them the stage to talk about whatever it is that lights them up and fills them deep at their core. So that's
So
available on
good.
all podcasting platforms and YouTube as well.
Awesome. And I will link everything that you said, Instagram, website, podcast, everything's going to be linked in the show notes. Cassandra, thank you so much for being a guest today. I really appreciate your time and energy. I want to thank everyone else also for joining us and tuning into another episode of Minding Mine. If this episode resonated with you, please remember to comment, rate, and review. Your feedback helps me grow. And until next time, live your life on your terms, and please mind your business. We'll catch you in the next episode.